Are you living a life that truly feels like your own, or just reacting to everything around you? How often do you say yes, when deep down you want to say no? Have you ever considered that every yes you give away may be costing you your time, your energy, and even your identity? Today's world rewards busyness, applause, and approval. But what if true power comes from restraint? What if the real flex is knowing when to say no and meaning it? In this video, we're going to explore what the Stoics knew centuries ago, that the word no can liberate you. It's not negativity, it's clarity. It's not rejection, it's protection. Before we dive in, if you're passionate about self-mastery, inner strength, and living with intention, subscribe now. This is where we grow stronger together. Let's begin. 1. Saying no is an act of power. The word no isn't just a word. It's a boundary, a declaration, a form of spiritual armor. It's not a rejection of others. It's an affirmation of yourself. In a culture that often praises the self-sacrificing, always available individual, saying no can feel like a rebellion. And that's exactly what it is. A rebellion against the pressure to live life on everyone else's terms but your own. From a young age, many of us are taught that saying no is impolite, that it disappoints people, that it burns bridges or makes you difficult to work with. But the Stoics would urge us to see the deeper truth. As Epictetus taught, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. And many of us think we know that being agreeable makes us good people. But it's not goodness to betray your own needs for the comfort of others. It's self-abandonment. Each time you say yes to something that doesn't matter, you are saying no to something that does. You're saying no to rest, no to purpose, no to the goals you said were important to you. The Stoics emphasize the importance of living according to nature, and that includes living according to your nature. If you are constantly pulled in directions that deplete you, you cannot live with integrity. You cannot think clearly, act deliberately, or grow meaningfully. The ability to say no is directly tied to clarity. You must first know what matters to you. What are your values? What are you willing to endure? And what are you no longer willing to tolerate? If you don't have these answers, you will find yourself in a cycle of overcommitment and resentment, wondering why life feels so exhausting. No is the gatekeeper of your life's priorities. It stands at the entrance of your time, your attention, and your energy. It filters what gets access to the precious limited hours you have on this earth. When you start seeing your time as sacred, just as the Stoics did, you will find that no becomes not only easier to say, but necessary to your well-being. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Saying no is a form of adversity. It can trigger confrontation. It might disappoint others, but every time you say it, you strengthen a muscle inside yourself, the muscle of self-respect. You begin to realize that peace isn't found in pleasing everyone. Peace is found in aligning your actions with your convictions. This doesn't mean becoming rigid or antisocial. The power of no isn't in its harshness, it's in its intention. You say no so that your yes can be wholehearted. You say no to mediocrity so you can say yes to excellence. You say no to chaos so you can say yes to calm. In a world where everyone is running faster, chasing more, and burning out along the way, the person who pauses, reflects, and declines the unnecessary stands apart. They become the still point in a turning world. They are no longer controlled by the whims of others or by the guilt of disappointing them. They are governed instead by inner direction. Saying no isn't about control, it's about freedom. The freedom to shape your life consciously, to protect your peace, your purpose, and your power. And that is not rude, it is revolutionary. 2. Freedom lies in rejection. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations reminded himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This simple directive is the foundation of Stoic integrity. It demands not only external honesty but also internal alignment. To live freely, we must first learn to reject what is false, distracting, or corrosive to our character. We often imagine that distractions are minor nuisances, social media, background noise, idle chatter. But to the Stoic, these are not merely trivial interruptions. They are subtle forms of enslavement. Every time you succumb to distraction, you surrender a piece of your focus, your peace, and your presence. You dilute your awareness and cloud your judgment. Distractions don't always arrive with flashing lights and loud noises. Sometimes they come dressed as harmless habits. Mindless scrolling, endless multitasking, chasing novelty. These patterns wear down our attention like water on stone. They erode the mental stillness that Stoicism prizes. Inner freedom is not about isolation. It's about elevation. When you reject what doesn't serve your higher self, you rise above the noise of the world. The Stoic doesn't run from life. They refine how they engage with it. They strip away the unnecessary to reveal what is essential. And often that process begins with a powerful no to gossip, because it robs you of your dignity. No to drama, because it disrupts your peace. No to comparison, because it distorts your self-worth. No to overconsumption, because it steals your clarity. The person who can reject these subtle poisons is not weaker for it. They are wiser. They are not detached. They are focused. They are not bitter. They are discerning. Epictetus wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Rejection, then, becomes a path to freedom, not by escaping the world, but by choosing how to respond to it, by refusing to be ruled by impulse, temptation, or noise. You gain spiritual sovereignty through selective rejection. You stop being a passive consumer of life and become an active participant in your own unfolding. You direct your days rather than drifting through them. Rejection is not just about saying no to what's wrong. It's about saying yes to what's right. Yes to focus. Yes to stillness. Yes to purpose. These are the conditions in which your best self can emerge. The more you practice rejecting what distracts and deceives, the more space you create for depth. And in that space, clarity grows, stillness deepens, your inner compass sharpens. Freedom is not the absence of structure. It is the ability to live by a structure you consciously choose, and every act of rejection is a step closer to that freedom. 3. Discipline over temptation. Temptation is everywhere. It lurks in the momentary indulgence, the easy out, the shortcut. It whispers promises of pleasure with no cost. But as the Stoics understood, every temptation carries a hidden price, and it's usually paid by your future self. To the Stoic, discipline is not about punishment or denial. It is a declaration of self-respect. It's saying, I refuse to be ruled by my impulses. I choose reason over reflex. I choose what is right over what is easy. Temptation often appears harmless. Another drink, one more episode, a skipped workout. But the Stoics would ask, what is this action training in you? What character are you reinforcing? Because every choice is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. Seneca warned, no evil propensity of the human heart is so powerful that it may not be subdued by discipline. Discipline, then, is not the enemy of freedom. It is its foundation. It's the structure that allows your higher self to emerge. Imagine a river without banks. It becomes a flood. But with boundaries, it becomes a powerful force. That is what discipline does to your life. It channels your energy. It gives shape to your efforts. It keeps you from drifting into regret. The Stoic does not fear hardship. They embrace it as training. Saying no to temptation becomes a kind of exercise, a daily test of inner strength. And each time you pass that test, you build confidence. You begin to trust yourself. Temptation often thrives in uncertainty. Just this once, it says. But the disciplined mind sees through that lie. It understands that consistency is built, not in grand gestures, but in small decisions repeated daily. When you choose discipline, you aren't giving something up. You're gaining something far more valuable: integrity, stability, peace of mind. You begin to live a life you can be proud of. And when others wonder how you remain so grounded, so focused, so strong, the answer will be simple. I said no. Not to punish myself, but to protect myself. I chose virtue over vice. I chose meaning over momentary pleasure. The path of discipline may be narrow, but it leads to the widest kind of life, the life of inner freedom. 4. Integrity over approval. Let's talk about people-pleasing. At first glance, it seems like a noble quality, saying yes when someone needs help, volunteering your time, avoiding conflict, keeping the peace. You might think, what's wrong with that? Isn't that what good people do? And in moderation, kindness and helpfulness are admirable traits. But there's a critical line, one that, when crossed, leads not to virtue, but to self-erasure. In the eyes of the Stoics, constantly seeking to please others isn't compassion. It's a form of self-abandonment. When your worth becomes tied to how much others approve of you, you slowly start to lose touch with your own principles. You begin living your life on someone else's terms, and without realizing it, you become more of a reflection than a person, mirroring the expectations and preferences of others while your own identity fades into the background. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus put it plainly: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. This wasn't a call to recklessness. It was a reminder that real growth often requires saying no to popular opinion. Sometimes you must choose truth over comfort, principle over popularity, integrity over approval. Saying no isn't rude, it isn't selfish, it's one of the most honest things you can do. It's the act of drawing a boundary and saying, I respect you, but I also respect myself. Without those boundaries, you become vulnerable to manipulation. People will push, and if you have no inner foundation, you'll bend until you break. People-pleasing is often driven by fear, the fear of being disliked, misunderstood, or rejected. But the Stoics taught that what truly belongs to you is your own moral compass. External approval is fleeting. One moment you're celebrated, the next you're criticized. Anchoring your self-worth in something so unstable is a recipe for emotional chaos. Instead, anchor yourself in virtue. The Stoics believed that the only thing truly in your control is your own character. What others think, say, or do, that's outside your influence. But your responses, your choices, your values, those are yours. Every time you choose to act from integrity instead of approval-seeking, you strengthen that inner core. Consider this. Every time you say yes to something you don't believe in, you're saying no to something you do. Time, energy, and attention are limited. If they're constantly being spent on the needs and preferences of others, you may never have enough left for your own path, your own calling, or your own peace. Does that mean you stop helping others? No. It means you help from a place of strength, not obligation. It means your kindness is a choice, not a strategy for acceptance. And that distinction makes all the difference. You don't have to explain every boundary you set. You don't have to justify every no you offer. When you Live with integrity, your actions speak for themselves. And the right people, the ones who respect your values, will understand. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Choosing integrity over approval won't always make you popular. Some people won't like your boundaries. They may accuse you of being difficult, distant, or even selfish. Let them. Their discomfort is not your burden. Your responsibility is to live according to your own principles, not their preferences. The Stoics encouraged something called ataraxia, a state of serene calm, unshaken by praise or criticism. You achieve that not by trying to control what others think, but by mastering your own reactions. When your self-worth no longer depends on applause, you're finally free. So stop trading your dignity for temporary validation. Stop saying yes just to avoid discomfort. Every time you stand firm in your truth, even when it's hard, you are practicing a form of courage. You are choosing a life of meaning over one of performance. Integrity won't always be the easiest path, but it will always be the truest one. 5. Clarity through simplicity. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded by opinions, expectations, comparisons, and distractions. It's no wonder so many people feel mentally and emotionally exhausted. But the Stoics believed that peace is not something you stumble upon, it is something you cultivate. And one of the most powerful ways to cultivate peace is through simplicity. Now, when people hear simplicity, they often think of minimalism, owning fewer things, decluttering the house, living a more austere lifestyle. That's part of it, but it's not the whole picture. Simplicity, as the Stoics saw it, goes deeper. It's about clearing space in the soul. It's about filtering what you allow into your thoughts, your emotions, and your decisions. Flattery, comparison, resentment, overindulgence. These are not just harmless distractions. They are corrosive forces that, if left unchecked, gradually eat away at your peace. And the worst part? They often disguise themselves as normal behavior. Take flattery, for instance. It may feel good to hear praise, but if you begin to crave it, you become dependent on it. You start making choices based not on what's right, but on what gets you applause. You lose your authenticity in exchange for approval. The Stoics remind us, value character over compliments. Comparison is another silent thief. You scroll through someone else's curated life and wonder if you're falling behind. But comparison is built on illusion. You're measuring your behind the scenes against someone else's highlight reel. When you say no to comparison, you say yes to your own path. You preserve your uniqueness, your pace, your journey. Resentment is perhaps the most toxic of them all. It burns slowly but deeply. The Stoics believed resentment was poison to the soul. Why? Because it traps you in a cycle of victimhood. You relive the offense, you nourish your anger, but you never move forward. Forgiveness, they taught, is not about the other person, it's about freeing yourself. Overindulgence, whether in food, entertainment, or comfort, also clouds your clarity. Stoicism doesn't preach deprivation, but it does advocate discipline. If you are constantly overstimulated, you lose your ability to reflect, to think clearly, to connect with your inner values. Restraint sharpens the mind. It keeps you present. Simplicity, then, is not about having less. It's about needing less. Less noise, less distraction, less ego. When you simplify your mental and emotional life, you begin to see more clearly. You become more grounded, more intentional, more at peace. And this doesn't require a complete withdrawal from society. You don't need to live in a cave to practice Stoic simplicity. You just need to be more selective. What conversations are you giving your energy to? What thoughts are you entertaining? What kind of media are you consuming? Seneca advised, associate with people who are likely to improve you. That's a call for simplicity in relationships. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Be discerning. Surround yourself with those who lift you, challenge you, and respect your peace. Clarity is not achieved by adding more. It's achieved by removing what does not serve. And that takes courage. It's easy to keep adding things, more commitments, more opinions, more distractions. But it takes real discipline to say, this is enough. So practice the discipline of less. Say no more often. Choose stillness over noise. Choose substance over stimulation. Choose what is essential over what is urgent. Because when your mind is clear, your values come into focus. And when your values are clear, your path becomes unmistakable. Simplicity is not weakness. It is mastery. The power is yours. You don't need more hours in the day. You don't need more energy. You just need to stop giving it all away. Saying no is not about pushing others away. It's about pulling yourself back to your values, your path, your truth. The world will keep asking. That's its nature. But you get to choose. Will you keep saying yes to everything that doesn't serve you? Or will you finally start saying no and mean it? If this message resonated with you, subscribe and join a community that values depth over noise, growth over comfort, and purpose over popularity. Your life is waiting for you. But first, you must learn to say no.